Don't use the fact that you find running difficult as a weapon to beat yourself with. Now, I am not a great runner at all. I've been running since 2018 and I would call myself an extremely average runner. And yet I get so many people say to me, oh yeah, I really want to run. I do really like the idea of it. I've tried it. I'm just not a runner. And I get this whole thread that's the same every time, that these people blame themselves for not being runners, even though they want to be. And in the 5 years that I've been running, I have had all of the same thoughts as well. I have thought, oh, I'm not a runner, I'm not very good, I can't do it, maybe I'm just not built for it, all of these things. But I've finally kind of realised that it's not me and it's not you. It's the expectations and the lies that we are telling ourselves. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why you can't run, why you find it so difficult to run and why you keep giving up. So I started running in September of 2018 and I literally could run from my front door 500 meters down the road and then I would feel like I was going to die. And for someone who has always walked everywhere and has always been reasonably active, that seemed so at odds with who I was, who I felt I was fitness-wise. It seemed bizarre that I could only run 500 meters and then I'd have to like stagger along walking and then I could run for another 500 meters and then I'd feel like I was going to die. Because I wasn't particularly like unfit at that time, I thought, oh, well, it can't be my fitness level. It must just be the fact that like I can't run, like I'm not a runner. I don't have the body, lungs, heart, I don't know, whatever for it to be a runner. And I continued in this way, big-headedly it seems, for 3 to 4 months. In the just after Christmas of the following year, I was running along a narrow footpath and there were 2 women ahead of me and they were jogging, they were running pretty slowly. And I thought, oh, this is so frustrating. I can't run around them because I'll just have to like stop 100 meters up the path and it'll be, then they'll probably overtake me again and it'll just be ridiculous. So instead I thought, oh, whatever, I will just match their pace and jog on behind them. And that was the first day that I ran 5 kilometers without stopping. This was a huge epiphany for me because I genuinely thought, I guess, looking back, that running and sprinting were the same thing. They're not. As it turns out, when you go running, the definition of running is just faster than walking. So when you begin running, and walking is a really classic way to get into running and start running anyway, and that is absolutely brilliant and fine. But when you want to run continuously, the aim isn't to run fast necessarily, you just want to be running. So that's literally anything faster than walking. That's all you have to do. And when you can do that, then you get this kind of self-confidence that you realise that, oh, I can continue going forever, really, because I'm just going at a very sustainable pace. So you build up, you can run, walk, and then you run just slowly until, you get to the desired distance or whatever. So that's the first thing that you're maybe doing wrong. You might just be running too fast. I think the second reason that a lot of people find running too difficult is because they can't motivate themselves to get out there in the first place. And this happens to us all. This is not you, it's not your fault. It doesn't mean that you're lazy or that you're a crap runner or any of that stuff. It is just hard to imagine being in a different state to the one you are now. So when you're in your house, like I don't know about you, but in winter my house is pretty cold. I am sat here in a t-shirt currently. I don't know how I'm doing that. I just drank coffee, so that's probably why I'm a bit warmer. But normally I am freezing in my house. And so the idea of taking off clothes and then putting on fewer clothes and then going outside where it is colder to run, that transition, no, it just doesn't work for me. Like the idea of it makes me just want to get under the duvet. So motivating yourself to get out of the house is a very core, oh, that is the Google reminder. That is telling me to water my plants. The idea of leaving the house is a tough one. However, you have to remember that how you feel in the house at rest is not how you're going to feel out there on the run. like you're gonna feel so much better. By the time I get to the end of my road, I've already kind of warmed up a bit, like physically warmed up. My body is warming up. I'm not so cold anymore. I am already, you know, a kilometre in, and you're really getting into the rhythm of things. Like you are enjoying it. You can't imagine that necessarily when you're sat inside your house, when you're cozy inside your house and it's freezing outside, or if you're cold inside your house and you don't want to get any colder. You are not going to get colder on your run, you're only going to get warmer. But you do have to put your shoes on in your cold corridor and step out of your front door into the cold before you start warming up. That is just a fact of life. The transition is going to be difficult. So you just have to park that, push that aside, and go through the physical motion, get changed, put your shoes on, leave the house, go for your run, because by the time you get to the end of your road, you will feel so much better. You can't wait for the motivation to come to you. Like 99% of the time, it's not gonna come. You have to go to it. So when you start running, then the motivation to run will come. You can't wait, you can't sit in your house and wait for the motivation to run. You have to go out and find it. So that transition between being unmotivated and cold or uncomfortable in your house or whatever, or too comfortable in your house, and that transition to leaving, that is a tricky one and it's never going to go away. But once you start running, you'll love it. Number 3 is a particularly big one for women, I think, but I'm sure it affects men as well. And that is, do not feel crap when you're running along and someone overtakes you. Or you just see someone across the street and they look effortless and they just look like a runner and they just, oh, why don't you look that cool? No. For a start, when people overtake you, no matter what speed you're running, it's ridiculous to compare yourselves to them. Because for a start, I mean, you're not them, they're not you, and you don't know what they're doing. Sometimes I'm running interval sessions, which means I am running along the disused railway here, and then, you know, at a fairly gentle pace, and then I do 20 seconds of like super fast running. And the railway line, you know, has some curves in it. So if someone sees me coming around a corner going super fast and I go straight past them and then they go around the corner so they can't see me anymore, they're gonna be like, oh wow, I'm so awful, she's so fast. No, my entire body wants to die and I'm sprinting for 20 seconds and then I'm out of view and then I stop and I start running really slowly again to recover. You have no idea what session somebody else is doing. So when they come past you at a fair old clip, yeah, sure, maybe they are really fast, which is fine and great for them. I mean, the Olympics would be really boring if no one was a fast runner. But they also might be doing something very different, like interval sessions. Equally, when you overtake somebody and they're running really slowly, they might not be a bad runner or a slow runner or all the other insults we hurl at people not like meeting this weird standard that we've invented in our heads. They might just be on a super steady like zone 2 run where you keep your heart rate as low as possible. Try not to project your fears or desires or anything onto the people around you because it doesn't make any sense. It's just a story that you're telling yourself. It doesn't matter how slow you're running, how fast you're running, how medium you're running. Like, these aren't real things. Being slow at running doesn't equate to being bad at running, and being fast doesn't equate to being good. And running doesn't mean sprinting, it doesn't mean fast, it doesn't mean slow, it's just running. Number 4, this is the biggest one, I think. Maybe number 5 is the biggest, I don't know. But number 4 is one of the things that it took me a while to learn, and I tell it to people all the time when they say that they just hate running, they find it too hard, it's awful, it's painful, and they just can't get beyond a couple of kilometres. The first kilometre, the first 2 kilometres, maybe sometimes even the first 3, are always hard. They're always the hardest. And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Before you were running, like literally the day, before you were running, you probably weren't doing that much exercise. Maybe you were sat at your desk, maybe you were sat on the sofa, whatever. Maybe you were cooking, I don't know. But you weren't running, right? So your body is in a very different state to how it needs to be to go running. Your heart rate is low, your muscles aren't really active. If you're sitting down, your leg muscles are just like proper snoozing, okay? And then you think that you can get dressed, I don't know, do some star jumps or something and then go out the door and feel good? No, like that's just not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Even if you do a really like punchy warm up, you're still gonna need some time to get into the rhythm of the run, and your lungs are gonna get into the rhythm of breathing properly, and your heart is gonna start pumping enough blood to go all around your body at the right rate. That is always gonna take some time. And for different people, that will be a different amounts of time, the terrain you're running on, the temperature, all of these things affect how long that transition period takes. Sometimes the first like 600 meters, 700 meters feel really easy, and then suddenly it gets really hard for like a kilometre. And I don't know why that is, but other days, like that first like kilometre or two, are so difficult. But whatever it is, by kilometre 3, I'm having the best time. Like, I've got into the rhythm of it, my heart knows what it's doing, my fingers have warmed up, my lungs are working at, properly at capacity. It takes me, 2 to 3 kilometres to really get into the rhythm of things. And if you're only running for 2 or 3 kilometres, chances are you're gonna feel shit for that entire time because your body just needs time to get into it. And so you should not judge your running ability or how you enjoy running, how you feel running, any of those things. Don't judge any of it on the first couple of kilometres, because it doesn't matter how good you are or how long you've been running. When you begin your run for the day, it's going to feel harder than it is later on in the run because your body just hasn't, got up to speed yet. Okay, number 5 is probably the one that I feel like maybe this is the biggest lie, that the more you run, the easier it gets. No. Yesterday, for instance, I ran 10k. It was quite hilly, lots of different terrain, so tarmac, footpath, field crossing, all that kind of stuff. And a few years ago, running 10k would be like, I'd have to really build myself up to it. And yesterday, I just went for a run and I happened to run 10k. So I can run 10k, whereas before I would have really struggled with it. But that doesn't mean I find it, running in general, easier. So when I started running, I ran as much as I could, in one session. So I would run, but I would stop a lot and gasp for breath a lot. And it was hard, okay? It was really hard. And now it's basically the same. I just run further and I run faster, but the feeling is the same. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm just like, you move the goalposts. If I only ever wanted to run 5 kilometers at 6.5 minute kilometer pace, then yeah, sure, like running, I guess, would get easier. But you don't actually really do that, do you? Like, you don't build up to some level and then just stay sort of stagnant at that level. So the more you run, it doesn't get easier, you just get faster and then you go further, or you pick one of those options, or you pick both, or whatever. So running is never easy. Like, I never find it easy, and if I did, I probably wouldn't be doing it, because to me the whole point of running is to like clear my head, make my body feel like it's being used, have that sense of exhilaration and euphoria at the end of it. And if it was really easy, I don't think I would get any of those things, because sitting on the sofa is easy and it doesn't clear my head, make my body feel like it's being used, or give me a sense of exhilaration or euphoria. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think you or I are running for comfort. We're not running for ease. We go out to challenge ourselves because it makes us feel so great during and afterwards. So if it wasn't hard, you wouldn't get any of that and you probably wouldn't do it. So don't use the fact that you find running difficult as a weapon to beat yourself with and as an excuse to not do it, because the reason you're doing it is because it's difficult. And I think you probably know that. So these are the reasons why I think most people find running difficult and even say that running isn't for them or they're not runners, even when in the same breath they'll say that they do actually want to run and they do want to be runners. If you find yourself like really struggling for breath and constantly having to stop, you might be running too fast. And there's nothing wrong with run walking. That is a fantastic way to get into running. There's also nothing wrong with running as slow as possible without walking. Like, that is a great thing to do, and you know, that's what an easy run is. Like, you just want to get out the door, run slowly. Also, remember that the first kilometre or two are always going to be difficult. Your body is making quite a large transition, and definitely do not compare yourself to other runners. I know that this is an impossible thing to do, and I know that you objectively know that, but you still can't maybe not help doing that. But just make up a story, a more favourable story if you want. Whatever. Like, it doesn't matter, but just try not to look at another runner and feel like you're inadequate. We're all on the same team. Every runner is out there, no matter how fast they're going, they are, you know, they're doing something that's difficult. It's difficult for them. Mo Farah running at my fastest pace probably isn't that difficult for him, but most of his training runs are probably difficult for him, and they would be impossible for me at this stage. You can't judge yourself by somebody else. Again, that is just a weapon you're using to beat yourself with. Try not to do that. And finally, remember that running is difficult. That is why you're doing it. That's why you feel so great at the end of it, and why you feel so proud of yourself when you've done a run. Because it's hard. And that's a good thing. We do the things that are hard, right? Thanks for watching this video. I think these things are incredibly important, and even though I've been running for 5 years now, I still have to remind myself of them pretty much every single time I go for a run. That's just the way it is. See you in the next one. Bye.